Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today, I hope you guys are enjoying the update. I'm currently not doing that because I'm recording this a day before, but we are talking about a deal that is available to you in this update in 14.5. You can get the Tier 6 Premium Italian Cruiser, the Duke of Aosta, for a mere $10. Which is, well, half of what it normally costs. How do you do this, Sea Lord? Well, if you will saunter on over to the event pass in your port, you'll see that the Duke of Aosta is available in the paid line of the event pass, which cost a mere 2,500 doubloons, which is like $9.90 US after tax, a little bit over $10, which is, half of what a Tier 6 premium ship normally costs. So that's a pretty good deal, right? I mean, on the surface, yeah, but let's take a look at the Duke of Aosta today and discuss whether or not you do want to hand wargaming your 2,500 dubs over for the Aosta. Now, you do, of course, also have to, grind your way through the event pass in order to get the Duke of Aosta. From my experience, it's not something that's very hard to do at all, so just be aware you're not just handing over the cash, getting the ship right away. You do have to play through the event pass a little bit. Normally, again, it's not too bad, and unless they just want to, for some reason, randomly crank up the grind out of nowhere, should be the case here with the Duke of Aosta. So, what is the Duke of Aosta? Well, the Duke of Aosta is it is the first ever Italian cruiser in the game, premium or tech line. This is it. This is where we started from, boys. And what's really cool is that you can look at the Duke of Aosta and you can see that, most of these elements did make it into the Italian tech line cruisers, which I think is pretty neat, seeing how Wargaming started out here. They eventually got, there with the Venezia line, so that's pretty cool. So what are some of those elements? Well, the Duke of Aosta is just downright fast for a Tier 6 cruiser. The thing can go with the speed flag 38 knots at Tier 6. Which is downright stupid for a Tier 6 cruiser. So it's fast, like a Ferrari. Oh, that is so bad. I couldn't help myself there. It's all right. My girlfriend's half Italian. I can do that. Anyway, so yeah, it is a very fast Tier 6 cruiser, and that's a major part of her playstyle. On top of being downright fast, her guns are also really fast too. The AP shells have a velocity of 1,000 meters a second, so they are quite comfortable when you're shooting at range, so that's pretty cool. The HE shells also are pretty fast too, at 950 meters a second when they leave the barrels. So not only is the ship fast, the shells are quite fast as well, so you get a pretty comfortable set of shells here in terms of their ballistics and such. So that's cool. On top of being fast and having good velocity on her guns, when you do slap the rudder module on the Duke of Aosta, she is surprisingly maneuverable as well. And then that right there is kind of the formula for the Duke of Aosta when it comes to her guns and how she's mostly meant to be played. You smack W. I would highly recommend slapping the rudder module on your ship, and now you run around at 38 knots and you annoy the ever-living crap out of whatever it is that's on your flank by either buttering them down with your HE or pinning the crap out of them through AP. The AP is quite good at doing AP things. If you're coming up against like a battleship, chunk their superstructure for like 2 or 3k a salvo. You can chunk their upper belt, their extremities with the AP as well for, again, like 2 or 3k a salvo. There will, of course, be moments where naturally just with ship's angling and such, you will be forced to use the HE. The HE is a little lackluster when it comes to the damage and such. I mean, if you're landing like the 8 shells consistently, which by the way, she has 152mm guns. I kind of skipped over that, but yeah, 152mm guns. She's a light cruiser. But the alpha isn't all that fantastic, but once you get comfortable with the shells, it's not overly difficult to get them to consistently land on target. So, you'll be doing a consistent-ish level of damage over time, when you're annoying the crap out of this one ship, and of course you'll be setting fires along the way. Now, what's also neat about the Aosta is that because she has those 152mm guns, the guns can pin 25mm of armor without IFHE, which is really good for Tier 6. If you do take IFHE, you will be pinning 31mm of armor, which is more than enough to deal with Tier 6 and 7 ships, because you get over that 26, 27mm threshold, so Tier 7 and down battleships and cruisers, doesn't matter. You're pinning those common thresholds, so you're getting good, consistent pin damage with those guns. Even when you do get up to Tier 8, when you get double up tier to Tier 8, you're pinning 31mm of armor. That's no slouch at Tier 8 either. It's that 1mm shy of 32, but you're still doing well against those other ships, because again, you are pinning up to 31mm of armor. And that does drop the fire chance down to again, with IFHE, if you run IFHE on your Aosta, it does drop the fire chance down to 4.5% with the flags, so 3% without the flags. That is kind of rough sounding on paper, but I mean, from my experience, of course, RNG is RNG, and she's still pretty decent at setting fires. Again, this is a light cruiser, and you do have a pretty decent reload time with the build that I'm currently, well, I mean, it's a Tier 6 ship, so you can't really change it too much. 7.5 seconds of reload on those 152mm guns. So it's good all around in that department. You got good velocity, decent ballistics, you've got decent guns, you've got a decent reload, so it's pretty solid all the way around there in that department when it comes to the gun and the ballistics. Another thing about the Aosta, which I think kind of gets overlooked a lot, is her torpedoes. You get 12-kilometer torps. That's insane at Tier 6. Not only are they 12-kilometer torps, but they have a base reload that isn't that far off of 60 seconds. I think it's like a minute and 10 seconds, a minute and 15 seconds, something like that. And then if you take the commander skill, you have a 65-second reload on these torpedoes, on these 12-kilometer torps at Tier 6, which is great. That also means, too, if you take the commander skill, your detection range is well below your torpedo range, so you can stealth torpedo if you really want to, because the detection range, if you build into it, is 10.4 kilometers. Torpedo range is 12 kilometers, so there you go. So what I would usually do in my Aosta, and the ideal situation for really any Duke of Aosta, is you go to a flank and you do one of two things. You either use your high speed to rush down the side of the flank and just harass the ever-living crap out of the enemy team. You're hitting them with your HE, you're setting fires, they're broadside to you, you're chunking their superstructure, their upper belt, their extremities, or in the case of, like other light cruisers, you're citadeling them with your AEP, and then you're tossing these torpedoes downrange every 65 seconds. So you're just annoying the living crap out of a flank, either, again, you're pushing into them and, running down their sides, or cutting away from them and using your good maneuverability to dance around the shells. Again, you slap W 4 times in the Aosta and you dance for your life. Now, the downside to this is that you are a Tier 6 light cruiser, which means armor isn't really a thing. But it's enough of a thing to arm a lot of the battleship caliber guns that will be tossed at your ship from time to time. So, unfortunately, that does mean that even like Tier 5 battleships, occasionally, they'll fire at you and that one shell will find its way, into that one spot of your ship, and you'll lose, a third of your HP from one shell. That does still happen. But that's also where the dancing comes into play as well. But again, it's a fine line between dancing and also getting shells on targets to do damage, and it's a ship that it's definitely not for new cruiser players. I will say that you need to have a fair amount of experience in light cruisers before you hop into a Duke of Aosta, because it's got to be paying attention to so many things. Is this guy looking at me? Is that guy looking at me? Okay, I'm trying to burn this guy down, but I gotta pay attention to that cruiser over there that's maybe turning around the corner. And you do only have a 14-kilometer main battery gun range, which, with this playstyle, it's kind of like in the same boat as the Kronstadt, where, the velocity is pretty good, the ship's pretty maneuverable, but, your range is so short, yet you're basically playing, danger close to the enemy ship for, your ship, basically, with the lack of armor on the Duke of Aosta. So you have to be very attentive as to what's going on versus other light cruisers, which, can, of course, sit in a smoke screen and just farm for days. If you have a buddy that wants to smoke you up in the Duke of Aosta, sure, you can do that. And like you see in this match too, eventually, it gets to the point where I can hide behind an island, just start farming things down. That's very nice as well. You also have to be very much aware of your top speed, because that top speed can get you into trouble, like you guys should have saw at the start of this match. I I did fly too close to the sun, way overextended, and I had to wait for the team to catch up. So you don't want to do that. Move with your team, and your main goal is to be a distraction for the enemy team, and with them shooting at you and not your friendly team. At the same time, you also want to be able to dance around those shells and not, eat those errant battleship shells that remove half of your HP. I would highly, highly recommend you pick Sansonetti up if you do get the Duke of Aosta, because Sansonetti is a fantastic guy to have on the ship, as he is with any Italian cruiser, right? You get a kill, your range gets extended, and now, oh my god, once you get out to that 16-kilometer range, either with the Sansonetti's talent or with the spotter that it does come with, that is so lovely. Which the fighter's another thing. I feel like they gave it way too long of a reload. I mean, this is a very old ship, right? So understand that, back in the day when this ship was released, the game was very different from what it's like today. So that's why I would say, the Duke of Aosta, they can probably, crank down that scouter, that spotter plane cooldown time a little bit. That would make the ship a lot more comfortable to play, having that plane up more often, right? Because at 16 kilometers, you're still very much, this is a gun cruiser. You don't have an exhaust smoke, because this is way before that was even thought of, right? You don't have an exhaust smoke, so you're still gunning in the open. You're not really, again, doing other light cruiser things, right? So you're running and gunning in the open, and yeah, that spotter is so nice. Or again, get Sansonetti, get a kill, get your range extended, and his skill that gives the ship's consumables a longer runtime too, once you get so many shells on target. That's a very nice skill to have here too, because the ship does have a surprisingly high degree of utility for a tier 6 cruiser. You get Hydra, DFAA, and like I said, the spotter as well. So she's a ship that, if you know what you're doing, she's great. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're not much of a light cruiser player, I wouldn't really worry about picking her up. Now, do know that you are paying $10 for the Battle Pass, but you're not just getting the Duke of Aosta and the Battle Pass. You are, of course, getting all the other goodies that come with the Battle Pass as well. If you're wondering, well, you guys can literally go look in the armory right now, or sorry, in port right now, and see exactly what you can get in the Battle Pass. And it's usually a pretty good deal if you're someone that consistently plays the game. And then again, they throw a random premium in there every now and then, so you could pay $10, get all the goodies in the Battle Pass, in the free line and in the paid line, and then get the Duke of Aosta as well on top of that. So if you are a fan of light cruisers, I think it's a pretty easy choice. She's a really solid ship for experienced light cruiser players. She's, again, it's so funny how these older premiums age so well. She's still very viable in today's World of Warships, right? And she's, again, the first Italian cruiser ever introduced in the game. She doesn't even have SAP, AP, and HE. Like, that's crazy. Think about an Italian cruiser without SAP in today's World of Warships. So, yeah. If you're a light cruiser fan, you'll enjoy her. Non-light cruiser fan, I wouldn't really, stress about getting her. I wouldn't buy the Battle Pass just for her if you're not a light cruiser fan, right? Again, you get other things in the Battle Pass, right? But if you were looking at, maybe, just paying the $10 to pick up, Tier 6 premium at half off, but this isn't your ship, wouldn't really worry about it, in my 2 cents. So guys, let me know what you guys think about the Duke of Aosta. If you have her, if you are planning on getting her in the event pass, let me know what your thoughts on her are. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, and have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to catch you guys in the next one.